Hey everyone, my name is Geuris and welcome to the very first SHPE podcast. What we hope to accomplish with this is we want to present a new place for our members to gain access to all the information and knowledge that our alumni have, as well as showcase just a little bit about SHPE's mission and how it affects its members even after graduation. Or in other words, why you should join, why you should stay, and take advantage of all the opportunities provided through SHPE. And we hope that this can exemplify that mission and just add a little bit more to the meaning of SHPE in a different way that the events or our events here at Stony Brook just can't do altogether. In this episode, we're talking to Giampolo Rivera, a senior system specialist at Columbia University, about how SHPE has impacted his life. He talks about his upbringing and about the different atmospheres at home and while he was studying here at Stony Brook University. So I hope you can take something away from this and enjoy the interview.
Got to Queens when I was 5 years old. Really was brought up in a warm family environment, although my dad had his tendencies of being a bit, militant at times. But I think that kind of instilled being very, kind of not letting things affect you as much, being, having a strong skin So I was raised in that type of environment. I went through the public school systems. Really, kind of looking back, my education wasn't really that good. I mean, I think about high school and that I only read 1 or 2 books is ridiculous. My daughter now that's in middle school has read more books in elementary school. Before she even got into middle school, she read more books in elementary than I did in high school. That just goes to show you how that all kind of is. At the time, also didn't have guidance, and that's one of the reasons why I'm involved in SHPE, is to try to provide some of that guidance, some of that experience. I'm not someone to try to tell you what to do. I just kind of always, my intention is to try to explain my story, explain my experience, my thought process, and you take it from there. I obviously give certain pointers that I think are important, but everyone's life is their own journey. It's unique to them, and I obviously, don't want to kind of interrupt that whole process. Yeah. But yeah. So I didn't really get much guidance, and when I got into Stony Brook, there really wasn't much guidance, throughout. It was just like you have to graduate, and that was pretty much the expectation. Graduated, and career as well. Really wasn't much guidance there. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have any of that stuff. It was still, SHPE was in its infancy. Really weren't too many mentors. There really weren't too many programs for Latinos. There weren't really programs for any of these folks. So you kind of just find your way. And it's through this experience, 18 years, that I am here, and this is why I am involved, because I did see that void in that whole process. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand that. It's important. I feel that that message is always sent as much as possible, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who are coming from something similar like that. They kind of they've grown up in or have had very limited resources in their own educational experience. So coming into any university, it's kind of something new, or even a shock on how far back they actually are, because it's just like they're missing so many pieces.
Absolutely.
And the point of SHPE, of course, is to kind of try to be that missing piece. We try to kind of bring in a different educational experience that fills in a lot of the gaps that we're missing. I definitely can relate to the fact that in my educational background, I haven't really had as many resources either. My high school was like 1 floor. We didn't have access to even a gym, let alone a lot of more opportunities besides like a couple classes.
Sure.
You know, so just in that, SHPE definitely has been that kind of missing piece. So it's definitely appreciated, that you come back as much as possible and give back to us, because it's something beyond incredible, and it definitely is a big help for us to kind of continue to show, or to continue to give opportunities like that to all our members.
Sure.
So I definitely want to start by saying that I appreciate always coming back.
Yeah.
It's a great help for us.
Sure. And I just want to touch on a point that you mentioned, that when you first come to Stony, when I first came to Stony Brook, what I found is that I was so behind in a lot of subjects. My writing was horrible. My math, I was okay, but my writing pretty much was horrendous. And what I realized is that then, and it's at that point that you start seeing the difference that is that disadvantage that we start out with. Mm-hmm. Not only do we have limited resources, but we also don't have the right education. Like, we don't have the proper education to try to keep up. And I felt like throughout my years at Stony Brook, I was always playing catch up. Always playing catch up. Never really ever felt like I was ahead of the game. And it's only now that I'm 40, 42, 43 that I still feel like I'm catching up. Like, and it's not a good feeling. And I think that that's what drives me also, to try to make sure that some of the younger generations, they don't go through that awkward and it's not a good feeling. So.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I've said this a couple of times to other people, that it definitely is something that it makes it harder for just you to kind of like get up in the morning sometimes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, you just feel like I'm still behind, and you kind of take a look at the things that you're missing, and it sometimes is overwhelming, for me at least. I don't know if you feel the same.
For sure. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's also kind of a badge, or a kind of battle scar that you can wear and kind of show off, because even though you've gone through so much adversity, you still have made it to the point that you are right now, and you can continue to move forward.
Absolutely.
So that's definitely something that I feel adds to kind of the personality, or just the characteristic of who you are as a person.
Yeah, man.
And what did get you to kind of first come into SHPE? Like, did you come in off the bat, or did you kind of just stand back, do things on your own, and did you kind of like gravitate towards it little by little? Did you hear about it by a friend and got pulled in?
Yeah, it was more of a friend. Name is Salvador, and I kind of met him through my information systems program, and kind of got me into SHPE. And it's funny because he's part of that Memories photo book. Yeah, he's towards the very end. So I saw his face, I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then what I didn't notice, and what I noticed also, is one of the first few pictures in that book was actually my roommate, my first roommate when I first got here.
Yeah.
His name is Jose. He was part of fraternity at the time, but I didn't know he was involved in SHPE. And it's only now that I realize that he was actually involved in SHPE after all these years. It's crazy. So it's pretty crazy. But yeah, it was through him. Wasn't really involved. Again, not much guidance. Didn't know really. I mean, it's a shame to say. I mean, at that time, I didn't even know what an engineer was. You would ask me different careers. When I was in college, I did not know what those careers were. Again, just limited knowledge, not knowing anything. So yeah, it was through him. I started getting involved a little bit more. I never took any e-board positions when I was here, but it got me curious, got me interested. I went to the conferences, and then I started seeing, wow, this is pretty cool. I like this. I saw the mindset of these individuals. It was a bit different. I could see that there's a path, to get a job and to do this and to develop different skills. So it was through that I definitely got, and it helped me, and it motivated me to continue after I graduated, to kind of become the SHPE NYC professional chapter president after 2 or 3 years after graduating. I think I took on that role. So Yeah, so I kind of owe it to him and that whole experience towards the end of my last 2 years of school here. So,
wow. And this is just like kind of follow question to go more in depth. How do you feel, that whole experience, before SHPE and after SHPE? How do you feel that shaped you, and kind of like how you kind of look at your professional career, or how you look at your time as president of SHPE NYC?
I think that is really when I started kind of learning the type of person that I was, the skill sets that I could kind of take advantage of. Prior to that, had no idea. I started realizing quickly that I was good with individuals. I was good, managing, certain projects. I was good at that. And the only way that I came to realize that was through these type of activities, through all of this stuff that I'm like, wow, man, I'm pretty good at this. And even till this day, I still use those skill sets, and they benefit me completely because, these project management skills really come in handy. Managing individuals at some point in your career, no matter what you're doing, you need to manage. You will manage. If you are in that role, you will have to manage personalities and individuals. And I think that if you start early on learning how to kind of how to maneuver through that whole world, it's going to be much better. So before that, I was just a kid with no idea, and then afterwards, and going through that whole experience, it really developed my skill sets, my soft skill sets on how to manage people, how to talk to people, how to be respectful, how to manage my time, how to all those skills really do matter in the real world. So yeah,
it definitely has moved a lot of obstacles out of your way. Then
it has. It's more of like it's allowed me to kind of take advantage of opportunities more and learn how to take advantage of those opportunities, how to deal with day-to-day situations at work. Because the reality is, you come here, you learn something, but they don't teach you how to deal. I mean, they give you, so they basically say you need to work on a group project. But does anyone really kind of go in and tell you, well, these are the dynamics of a group. If there's an issue, this is how you deal with it.
Yeah.
It really isn't. What people tend to do is like, if you're not putting up your share of the work, it's either I'll take it or I'm not going to be responsible for it. There's no discussion. There's no nothing. So you're really, even though they say it's group work, at least when I was here, they never really showed us how to work as a group, how to communicate, how to deal with the issues. I learned that all through experience, through SHPE NYC Professional, and from that I've kind of learned, okay, what not to do. You pick what you kind of you start picking up on lessons, and then that's helped me tremendously, and that skill I think will help me for the rest of my life. So I thank the NYC Professional Chapter and what that provided, and what I needed to go through those experiences to kind of get to where I am right now.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just in that, do you feel that being Hispanic, being a minority, do you feel that has at all kind of pushed you back or held you back in any way? And what I mean by that is, of course, like it's been notable. It's known that as coming up in those situations, in that kind of background, and not having those resources, whether you are Hispanic or not, or any minority, that is always, gonna hold you back. Do you feel that it's the same now as it was back then? Just in terms of Hispanics in STEM or Hispanics in college versus how it is now?
I think now there's actually more opportunity than there was before. There's more individuals out there in the workforce that you can relate to. When I first started, there really wasn't many individuals that I can relate to. My group was just all Caucasian or all Indian when I first started. So there really wasn't anyone that I can communicate with.
Yeah.
I think, and SHPE was still kind of in its infancy. I think, from what I remember, even though the conferences were big, but the people that were behind the table were still Caucasian and stuff. I don't know how it is now, but I think that it's gotten better. I've seen more professional engineers. I've seen more architects. I think there's more diversity in the workforce when it comes to STEM fields and STEM-related occupations. So. To answer your question, I think that it was harder before. It was more difficult than it is now. There's more programs geared towards STEM, geared to kind of bringing in more of the minorities. I mean, there is initiatives. There are major initiatives towards that. So I think that it's positive. The disadvantage, as I mentioned, that you mentioned as well, is the fact that with limited resources, we are always behind. We are never up to par with everyone else because the reality is we're still stuck we're a few steps behind. And I don't know if that's gotten better or worse. That's one of the things that I make sure that my daughter does not feel. I don't want her to feel that. My niece and nephew, my sister is doing the same thing. She makes sure that those resources, that we are not part of that disadvantage. A perfect example, my niece and nephew came to Stony Brook this past summer. It costs money. That money, it wasn't very cheap to have them here during the summer. But I told my sister, that is the disadvantage. This is the opportunity that we need to give them in order for them to be up to par with everyone else, because people can't afford it. And what happens? They spend their summer just watching TV, doing nothing productive, while here they're doing actually something productive. And I told her that we're not going to do that with my niece and nephew or my daughter. We're not going to do it. Whatever it takes to make them sure. So, yes, we are at a disadvantage, but as parents, and especially my generation, obviously our parents that don't have the resources, it's very difficult to ask them to kind of cough up that type of money. But when you become a parent, hopefully, you will make sure, and I hope you do, that you give them every opportunity. You don't want to spoil them, but you want to give them every opportunity to be up to par with everyone. So yes, there are disadvantages, but it really is also a mindset. I could have very well given up. I could have very well said, this is overwhelming, it's daunting, this thing is, forget about it, this I can't overcome, not knowing how to write properly, always being behind, and I mean, I took on computer science, very difficult. In the starting class, there were only three Spanish folks in the entire program when we were there. There was only one African American brother in that program when we were there. I don't know how it is now, but to see that everyone else was Asian, Russian, and Caucasian, it just was very difficult. I think we didn't care at the time, and I think we were oblivious to that. But now looking back, it's very difficult. You don't have no one to talk to. When I tell you that the grade that I earned a 3.2. I earned that grade. I earned it. I mean, I worked my ass off for that. For that grade. I was about to curse. I earned that grade, man, because I remember being at this very building for a 1 credit class. It was an introduction to Pascal. I had no programming experience. I never touched a computer. 1 credit. And what did I do? I stayed for 1 credit. When people were done with that project in maybe a few hours, it took me a whole weekend to be here. For 1 credit, I used to spend my weekends here. Friday, all night, Saturday, all night, come out Sunday for 1 credit course. And then you think back, you're like, man, this isn't fair, man. How is this possible? It's not fair. The willingness to learn, we all want to learn, but when you don't have the right resources, it just becomes overwhelming. And what happens? People give up. And that's why I was telling you that my dad, forced that mentality of like, don't give up. Sports, also, I played a lot of sports, told me don't give up. But it was difficult. Yeah. And so it is a mindset. Yes, we are, we are disadvantaged at times. We are still disadvantaged because a lot of the, executive positions, the C positions are all of a different color. But slowly, surely, I think we'll get there. But it's very difficult to kind of go. But you need to have the right mindset to overcome all of these, adversities and barriers and all that stuff. But very difficult, man. It was not easy. I withdrew from my computer science 214 class. No, is it 214 or 114? I withdrew
114, yeah. Oof,
two times. I withdrew in summer. I have 2 W's, man. And I said, I'm not going to give up. I was tearing at times by myself. I was like, damn, why can't I do this, man? Why? I always used to ask myself, why? And I didn't give up. I kept going. And so the funny part to this, and I'll stop at this, is because I don't want to kind of go too much, but the higher level computer science courses, I remember that I used to study so much with my friend, my good friend Gio, and we were both there, and we never cheated in any of our exams. The funny part was, the Asians were cheating on the exams, and we saw them during the exam. They would copy, and so him and I, we're still in touch, and we're still friends. He actually went on to he lived in London, and he went to business school there. He came back. He works at some multimedia company as a financial analyst, but we always look at each other and we're like, man, we earned that degree because we know the truth. We know that subject was difficult, and other people that you think, the perception is that they're smarter than you, were cheating. They were cheating on those exams, and we did not. So I'm proud to always say that I earned that 3.2. I'm proud to say that I got that grade because I earned it with sweat, time, dedication, a lot, man, a lot for that. And I think because of my experience here, it's been so difficult to continue to get my master's degree because I spent so much energy and effort here. I spent 7 years here, 7 years of my life here, struggling because I didn't have that guidance. So very difficult, man. And I'm sure that people still go through that, and I hope that when I come here and that we have that, we have this, and hopefully when you graduate, you come back, you help, man. We need to help each other. We need to help each other. So yeah.
Of course, I feel like I'm definitely a testament to kind of that shows how that continuing cycle of just difficulty is still going on now. Because, like you said, there's been so many opportunities that have been presented to me and my siblings, me and my brothers, that we haven't been able to take advantage of because we didn't have the financial background to do that. There's been so many times where we've been asked to be a part of some society that would kind of prep you for college, but you had to pay $500 at that moment to be a part of it, and then plus there was another payment that we had to keep doing, and we just couldn't do that at all. So just little things like that we couldn't take advantage of.
Yeah.
And it definitely was very difficult to just kind of have the motivation to even keep moving forward. And even for me, I grew up it was a single parent household and with my 2 brothers, and I'm the youngest in my family. So just looking at that, it just made it still even more difficult to kind of keep moving forward. But my mom definitely had that kind of mentality that don't give up. Even though we're in this situation, she would always kind of try to show us that there's still a little bit of light on the other side, and just keep looking at that, and you'll get there eventually. But just have the mentality that always look at the positive side of everything. Even though we didn't have the money to get into this program or whatever, there was another opportunity that I got to get into this program called Enlace that helped Latino students in the Bronx to kind of expose them to some STEM courses. I did chemistry, physics, math, a whole bunch of stuff, and that was kind of what kind of sparked my interest in STEM, and to continue in that field, continue that kind of I don't know, the love for science or whatever you want to call it. And little things like that, those little opportunities that I was able to just scrape out, I am thankful, because that has definitely helped kind of mature or move forward, help me move forward in a lot of the different things. And even though I definitely consider myself to be a lucky person in that regard, because I was able to get a small sliver of that opportunity, something like that. And but even then, I had to give up a lot of dreams, a lot of kind of things that I wanted to do, like sport. I know you mentioned sports. I wanted to do baseball, and there were so many camps. Again, cost money.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you can't get to that, you miss that opportunity to move forward in that.
Absolutely.
And it makes it even harder to get back into it when you even have the opportunity or have the financial background to move forward in that.
Yeah.
It makes it harder because you're already behind the curve.
That's it.
And the learning curve just keeps getting steeper the more you move forward. But you just also have to see what you're good at, And I feel that's something that's very important, something that has been shown to me in kind of that adversity. It kind of like got me to see what I'm good at and what I've been kind of honing and practicing so much in the time that I didn't have so many things. I had this one thing, and I knew I was good at that because I kept kind of practicing it. Kept moving in that, moving forward in that, and it definitely does help you kind of just practice in one section that you can move forward in. So you definitely always have to look at the bright side of everything.
I agree.
And I feel that's also something that's very important to kind of instill and promote as much as possible, because
absolutely,
in the fact that we don't have so much, you still have to kind of pay attention to what you do have and be proud of that. Be grateful for that.
We are very blessed to be where we are.
Yeah.
Even though I paint it as as something very negative. That we're not in a dire, we're not in a negative situation where we can't get out of it. But we are limited compared to others in this United States. But we are way better off. We're way off, better than other folks, the brothers and sisters in South America, and then in some other countries. We are way ahead of them, in terms of the opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, they also are very intelligent, but they also have limited resources.
Yeah.
But I think that we are definitely, in a better place. I think.
Showcase that mentality of just you have to be willing to read more and go out of your way to find resources or sources, mentors, whatever it may be, to show you that way, or show you that way of speaking, or the lingo, whatever it may be. But you have to be willing to kind of reach out for that.
Yeah.
And that's something that is hard to do.
Yes.
If you let pride get in the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's absolutely right. And as long as you know that you are a student for life and you have that mentality, you're gonna be all right. When you think that you know everything, you've already lost.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
And that's someone told me that that's the billionaire mindset of always being willing to learn from anyone.
Absolutely.
Whether there's someone who knows more than you or someone who knows less than you. Every opportunity, every occasion, every situation is a moment to learn. And that's kind of like the mindset you always have to live by. You always have to be a student. You're always a student,
always.
No matter what.
Student, always.
And I guess that's a good segue to kind of talking about how do you feel your goals have changed from when you were younger to when you graduated to how you are now. How do you feel that your kind of view on that, on what the goals may be, have changed, and even specifics if you can.
So I think that goals are when you're a student, you just want to graduate and find a job.
Mm-hmm.
that goal changed for me. Like I mentioned in the financial workshop, is my mentality was my goal was try to work, save money. That was my goal. But really, at some point, life kicks in. You're gonna get married. You may not get married. You might have a child. You might not have a child. You might move. So many variables. So your goals are are always changing. My goal for the last 12 years has been my daughter. That has been my number one, responsibility. My focus has been that, making sure that she gets a better opportunity and gets better education opportunities than I did, and she has a resource. So my focus went on that, and my career was pretty much on hold for the last 12 years. At the time that she was born, I was planning to go back to get my MBA. I was already taking the exam. I was at Manhattan GMAT, this program that you pay and they help you to prepare you for the exam. I was 30 years old. I'd already had been out for a good amount of years. I was working in various industries, and I was like, I need to kind of go out and then do something different here. My daughter came 12 years later. Now I'm starting to reapply to try to get back to the Master's in Public Administration at Columbia University. So it's very difficult. That is one of the things that I struggle with, is having goals. Like, I can define a 5-year goal, but I can't define a 10-year goal. Like, it's just very difficult for me because there's so many variables, and I have to do a better job at that. But what I can tell you is, now at this age, I'm already planning for my retirement. I don't want to work until I'm like 70, 75. So right now, the way that I think and the decisions that I make financially are all so that I can retire early, like around, I'm thinking maybe 60. I still might have, I'm still young where I could kind of enjoy. But my goal right now is to make sure that I retire with a good amount of money and that my daughter's good. So your goals change forever, man. I guess that's what I'm trying to tell you. Some people might be like this. I'm not like that. Variables come in, different life situations come in, and you have to adapt. So for me, I'm never really goal oriented when it came to that. Just the overall thing is that I wanted to retire with a good amount of money. How do I get there? How can I... the overall goal is also, I want to leave my niece and nephew and my daughter with at least one property paid off. That's my goal. Those are my two goals right there. I want to be able to retire with a nice little, I don't need a lot of money, but a nice monthly income. And if they have a property each, I'm happy. I could die at that point. I'll be like, all right, my time here has been good. And, give back to the community. I feel like there's that void. Last 12 years, haven't been able to give back as much, and there is a need for that. And so, man, those are my 3 goals. When I first graduated, didn't really have much, again, not guidance. Being out in the field, I realized, this isn't for me. What you expect out in the workforce is not really what you're going to encounter. So you can't make those goals. Those goals you're going to probably redefine. So, yeah.
Okay. No, and that's a fair point. It is a need to know that, to get from point A to point B, it's never a straight line. Never a straight line. It's always going to be some kind of, you might move back too. Don't expect it to constantly be moving forward. There may be times where you hit the lowest of lows and you have to start from scratch. Hopefully, you never encounter that, but that is a possibility. But I did, yeah. I definitely did. I mean, when I was explaining that in the workshop, I went through a lot. My credit was bad. I lost a lot of money. I've lost a lot of money as well. I've had to start over. You think that you're going to be with your daughter's mom forever, and you have a plan that you're going to be with this person forever, and your incomes together are going to get you to that promised land that you want, that goal, and it doesn't happen. She left, and she took everything with her. The apartment that we had, the only thing that I had when she left was a refrigerator. So you think about that. You're with someone that you expect to live the rest of your life. It doesn't work.
And what I realized from these relationships, it's a 50-50. We both were at fault. And then she leaves, and she leaves me with only a refrigerator. You know, it's very difficult. Those moments are tough. You lose money, you do this, and all of this is what builds your character and builds you. You are going to have difficult times. It's how you get up from those moments and how you move forward. And because of that, I think it defined me. It made me who I am. I don't let situations that before I thought were, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this now? They are very little. Like, to me, I'm like, any situation that you encounter has a solution. You just have to take your time, think about it.
Be level-headed.
Be level-headed. Don't let emotions get the best of you. Yep.
That definitely is easier said.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Emotion is something that it's a wild animal, to be honest. It cannot be controlled.
Cannot.
It can only be how you say. Sometimes you just have to let it ride. You know, let it flow, because you know. I guess that's a pretty decent way to say it. You know, it's like a river. You know, you can't really stop it, but you can kind of direct it to different ways.
Absolutely.
and try to manage it. You know.
But you know, I'll give you an example. When I was here with my girlfriend, my daughter's mom, because she came to Stony Brook as well, and you know, we went through so many issues emotionally in terms of relationships. I wasn't strong enough, and anything that happened between us just affected me tremendously. Anything that happened between us. Now, at this point, I understand that I do have a girlfriend, but if something happens that doesn't work out, if we don't work out, I won't have that same emotional reaction that I did when I was here. And it is through experience. You understand that at that time I thought that was the only female in my life. That's it. You know, there is no other female in this world for me. And you quickly realize that that is not true. I've met, you know, several young ladies. I've come across paths that I'm like, wow, she's really nice, man, smart, intelligent. So once you see that, and again, you could apply this to other aspects of life. Yeah. But once you see that there's different opportunities, you start realizing, well, you know, you give it your shot. At least in relationships, if you want to be in that, you'll make an effort. If you don't, then you're okay. Just be honest with the person and be honest with yourself and move on. And I've gotten to that point, but it's over many years. It wasn't easy. It really wasn't easy. So, same thing with the job. When I first lost my job, when they fired me, they not fired me, but they basically said, we no longer need your service. It's very difficult. And then how do you deal with that? How will you deal with that? And so over time, when I first did that, I was like, it was the end of the world. I felt, wow, how could they do this? Now I'm like, okay, cool, not a big deal. I'll find something else. Not a big deal. Again, it's experience. So anyway, but
I mean, experience and just knowledge in general, it's a very important thing to know, but it's not easily accessible. You know, it like we said before already, you know, it's something that you have to just kind of keep looking for, keep searching for. And just in that, do you feel that, you know, students or people nowadays in this generation kind of take advantage of that knowledge that is present, it's known by, you know, other people, by possible mentors, online technology and the internet that has so much to kind of just give to them? Do you feel that that's something that is taken advantage of, or just what's the word? Taken for granted, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You know, how important do you feel is that in this generation, and do you see kind of like that can be a way to
push forward for this generation, if you understand what I'm trying to get there.
I mean, I think from what I've seen here, I can't really speak on the generation because I'm kind of removed from your generation and stuff.
Fair.
I'm very removed, but what I have noticed is that, at least from my daughter's perspective, I see that they're putting them in a track that they make all this information accessible. They're making these resources accessible, which is a positive. They're making, their whole structure of the classroom is different. The technology, accessibility is so different. They have iPads now, in school. It's amazing. Even in public schools, they have smart boards. So accessibility for a lot of these kids is there. What I have noticed is, just talking to you, I think you're very articulate. I compare right now what you're talking, and I'm thinking about this. I'm like, would I, at your age, when I was here, be able to hold a conversation with someone that's 18 years older than me? I don't think so. And so for that, I commend you. And I think that a lot of that, at least from what I've seen in SHPE, with Maria, what I've seen with some of the previous members, they're unbelievable individuals, and very goal-oriented, And I think a lot of that has to do with the accessibility, that they've taken advantage of their opportunities, man. And I think that that's awesome. I think that's what we need to keep doing. And I see it in you. I know for a fact I would not be able to do what you're doing right now. Would not, man. I'm telling you, I would not. So you see the improvement. You see, man. So I think that the generation is, again, I'm removed, but from what I see, from little that I see, I think the generation is going in the right way. And from what I see with my daughter, I think also it's going in the right direction. I already teach her firm handshake, say good morning, say good afternoon, don't be afraid. So if every parent is doing this from early on, we're shortening, or we're kind of decreasing that kind of disadvantage that we've had before in the past. So yeah,
I thank you for that, and I definitely appreciate it. But yeah, it's definitely is that accessibility that does help, and it's also just a lot of times seeing the fact that a lot of our members have been able to kind of get past all of that and become some version of successful in their eyes and in ours. It does also help. There is a form of motivation seeing, the past generations getting there. Like you said before, it does help to see that there are people like us who have gone through some of the similar things like us, have made it past so many of the obstacles that we're currently going through now.
Yeah.
That is something that does kind of push us. It tells us, don't give up, because someone has made it already.
Absolutely.
Someone has made it past this. You just have to figure out what it is that they've done. So that's something that is beyond incredible.
Yeah,
and every time I personally see something like that, see someone who has made it there, it's something that just kind of is inspiring.
Yeah, it is, man.
More than inspiring.
And it's inspiring for me to see you all get, your members, the SHPE members get internships, hearing of job offers. It's amazing, man. It just kind of tells you, this is awesome, man.
Yeah.
This really is awesome. Yeah. And it also inspires us, man. I mean, it inspires the older folks. Like what I said, if I'm here and I'm 18 years older than you, and I think that I know more than you, and that I need to bestow this knowledge on you, and you need to do this. It's incorrect. That's not the way it works. I could learn from you. You are a future, or not a future, but you are a part of my network. You are a peer, and that's how you got to look at it, regardless of age gaps and stuff. People way above me, older than me, I look at them the same way that I would look. I treat them the same way that I treat you. There's no difference. There's no difference. There should be no difference, ever. You should never treat someone that's older than you better better or worse than someone that's younger than you. Like, you should have that same level of respect.
Yeah.
Obviously, the knowledge and the experience is all different, but you should always treat the people the same, and you will go far wherever you go,
Yeah.
because you will show that level of respect for whomever. So
Yeah, true. Like the old saying goes, treat everyone like you want to be treated.
that's it, man.
You
That's
know,
right.
It's
Yep.
definitely something that is a cliche, but
That's it.
not any less true.
It's always
you know?
relevant.
Yeah. And there's so many of those that are kind of gaining new meaning as you go through
Sure.
life. You know, but yeah, I believe those were all the questions.
All right, cool, man.
We definitely appreciate it so
Yeah, man,
much
no
you know,
problem.
for doing this.
Sure.
We definitely want to kind of use this podcast to kind of spread, that knowledge and also kind of show or give access to our members, direct access to alumni, kind of give a face and give a personality to who our alumni are, because it's always said, these are alumni, these are the people who have been here before, but we don't really know them personally. So this definitely gives us an opportunity to kind of talk to the alumni, talk to you guys about all the different things, and actually know and see how SHPE has impacted you guys who have already gone through all these things.
Absolutely.
So we definitely appreciate it
problem.
again.
Yeah, I mean, this I think is a great idea. It kind of bridges that. It puts a face, it puts a voice to those individuals before us, and I think that's key. If you guys could bring that would be awesome. So
Yeah.
but thank you.
This will definitely go a long way.
Cool, man. Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. All right, cool.
But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, man. No problem. Yeah, man. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.